Okay, we're live. Yes,
What's
welcome.
up, guys?
Yeah, welcome all. Freedom Vibe Podcast. Yee. Okay, good. Right. So, okay, let's go to live here. Can you just check on your phone if they've come up on your thing? Welcome all. Freedom Vibe Podcast. Another Saturday night chat. Sorry, we're a little bit late again. 15 minutes. Issue trying to set up, but
It's all good. We're live now.
it's all good in the hood. And for Anchor FM, where are we with Anchor FM?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to Anchor here. And bear with us a minute. It's checking. Bear with us a bit. Yeah, I can see you. Okay, good. Right, welcome all to the Freedom Vibe Podcast. This is your host, Adam, and I'm with
Mizan.
And yes, unfortunately, our young friend Goha is away at the moment, and he might pop in. He might make a cameo later on. But yeah, so how's your week been, Miss?
It's been all right. Again, just like work and stuff. I'm gonna say something now, which will touch upon the theme of the issue, but I am still kind of affected by the results of the general election that happened in December.
Did it traumatize you that bad?
It did, because I'm just going to be open about it. We had the chance to elect someone who really understood the Middle East and really fought for human rights in the Middle East.
Right.
And because of certain issues like Brexit,
yeah,
we could not. That person could not be elected. And we're feeling the reverberations of that now because of what's happened with the whole Iran situation and Qasem Soleimani, and the tension that's rising in the Middle East now because of that. Would have been in a better position to handle that than the person that we have in number 10 right now.
Okay. Has that come up on your page, by the way?
Yeah, the video's up.
Okay,
the
good.
video's up.
Okay, so I've added you into there. Okay, fine. Yeah, so my week's been a bit of a hectic one. I think the news stories over the world have been very interesting, to say the least.
Yeah.
The ping pong ball, table tennis, back and forth, news media agencies talking about what's happening here, what's happening there, and it's just conflicting news stories. And for me, it's been a bit of a kind of gets me angry because all of a sudden there's this escalating tension.
Yeah.
With General Soleimani's death.
Yeah.
Then the retaliation back, the mass of people coming out on the streets.
Yeah.
Then you have a White House briefing which says, he's lost support in their country, and people are, protesting up against them. But then you see these millions and millions of people lining up on the streets to mourn his death. So you're like, where's he getting his information from? And you could tell it was very scripted. Pompeo.
Yeah.
He was. What's his name?
Pompeo.
That's it. Pompeo was the city that got burned.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me, it's very interesting, very conflicting, particularly denying. Look, man, you know what? This ain't us. It's scientifically impossible. Our technology will not hit a civilian plane.
Yeah.
Where are you getting your stuff from? Why are you pushing this agenda out?
Yeah.
And they're like all the media agencies around the world. No, it was them. I'm about it.
Yeah.
It's unintentional and it's not a war crime. It's a perfect opportunity to make it a war crime.
Yeah.
It's an ample opportunity. But then when you saw who died in the, those Britons that died were Iranis and Afghanis. Would it have been white people? Would it have been very different?
Who knows? To be honest with you, that is a very interesting kind. What I generally think is important is when news reports something. Reason why they report it really quickly. Do you understand? It's current. They want to keep it current.
Yeah.
And sometimes, unfortunately, that misses out. All the kind of nuanced information is kind of missed out. It's like when these things are happening, the Middle East is always a very tense. There's always a politically tense situation with the Middle East.
Yeah.
It's important to just take your time out, go zoom out a little bit, and just look at the bigger picture. Yes, what happened with let's not be let's be real. Qasem Suleiman, he had his issues. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yeah, go on.
By the way, this is not alcohol. Yeah, this is a
Barbican.
Barbican soft drink. No alcohol. I don't drink alcohol.
Yeah.
Sorry, no alcohol.
Make that clear.
No alcohol. This is soft drink.
Yeah.
Only in the bottle.
We're also not getting paid for this.
We're not getting paid. No. No product placement here.
Yeah.
What's the tape?
Yeah.
Okay, carry on.
So obviously there are people that are going to hate him, and there are people that are going to like him. Do you understand? That's just how things work. Now the thing is like, I don't separate this from Trump's earlier kind of instigations with Iran, the tearing up of the nuclear deal, the kind of disengaging with kind of any kind of negotiations with Iran at all. And what against Iran, because whether you like them or hate them, Iran is a very powerful country in the Middle East. It has a lot of proxies. It has, it's doing things that we don't like, but it's doing things to enhance its own influence. And obviously, it's like that's the bigger picture here. Now, I'm not saying that we should be pro-Iranian or anti-Iranian. What I'm saying is, like, when we get these news about the Middle East, we have to always look at the bigger picture. Obviously, understand the nuances as well, understand the stuff that's going on, but look at the bigger picture. Iran just recently found, oil fields, basically. And this was a recent thing. So it found new oil fields, and all of a sudden, it's like Iran's on the map now, like literally. But we know from the Trump administration that the fact that they scrapped the nuclear deal with Iran, literally disengage any, with most kind of, they don't want to talk to Iran and all that kind of stuff, ideas of putting sanctions on Iran and all these kind of things. These are very, like, this is the end game. And what Trump's doing, or what he did, was really follow the kind of far right, basically ideologues of people who are like George Bush, of people who advise George Bush. You understand? And where it is, but we have to, when we hear news, take a step back, look at the bigger picture, and then you'll see what's really going on. When we talk about, like, the why should we be interested in the Middle East? Literally, we have to look at, we have to look at the bigger picture. And first thing is, we can't separate the East from the West. Actually, we're actually connected in a global world, in a globalizing world. We're all influencing the other in one way or another. But when things happen in regards to the Middle East, things are done in our name. When you look at what happened in Iraq, for example, that was done in our name, and therefore things like that, that should be of interest to us, because that is our government, that is our military, literally actively intervening in the sovereignty of another country. So I think there's a lot of things about the Middle East, but you said something that it gets you really angry. What aspect of it gets you angry, Adam?
About what's happening out there.
Okay.
I think what it is that there are certain things we need to be worried about, right? one thing is that from history, and history is a great teacher.
Mm.
You know, you know, this Iraq war that took place. Yeah. You know, there was a lot of intelligence that came flying around, right?
Mm.
And because of that intelligence, you know, the government took a very stubborn stance.
Mm.
We are going to war in the Middle East to defend the UK's interests,
Mm.
USA's interest.
Mm.
Yeah. You know, Trump has clearly said, we're going to take what's owed to us.
Yeah.
That you know, there's going to be a war that takes place, clearly. Now, today I came across on the news that, oh wow, Iran has just turned around and said, you know what, we accidentally shot down a plane and we're really sorry, and it's a very bad day for us, and that.
Mm.
I'm like, hold on, man. There's something weird happening. The two US is like, oh, no one got killed. It's okay, man. Everything's fine.
Mm.
No retaliation. That Trump president, I don't know if it was. It's a very New York Times article, so it must have been serious.
Mm.
That President Trump was very angry at the fact that the Iranians didn't respond in the way that they should have to invoke a proper war, and it hasn't taken the limelight for his impeachment.
Mm.
And he's a bit like, listen, what the hell?
Yeah.
And now they're still going to carry on impeaching because he's tried to take the subject away from it, like everything away from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was this Iranian thing actually, you know, what exactly happened with that? Because there was no Mayday shouting from the black box.
Right.
There was no Mayday. You know, usually when you get bombed, they're at the back, it's smashed, yeah?
Yeah.
The tail at the back gets smashed and it's blown up, and then obviously the plane's going down, and, you know, someone's shouting at Mayday. Maybe the pilot thing got blown up and first. I don't know, whatever. And the thing we should be worried about is this, is that, look, you know, with Britain, they went to war in Iraq against all found to be false. And yet that man, you know, Tony Blair did not get tried, as in he wasn't criminally, he lied.
Yeah.
He took the country to war
with
faking countless amount of lives. There were politicians have immunity on this.
Yeah.
And you know, then after his prime ministership, he gets put as a Middle East peace envoy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And you know, there's a calm before a storm. It's really weird because they smash a naval base.
Yeah.
You know, the Americans like, oh, we're going to target someone else now. But then there's now talk of, okay, what's the word that Justin Trudeau used? Look, kill civilians. Da, da, da.
Yeah.
But there weren't any US civilians on there. There were just 3 British citizens, and none of them were white.
That's something that has to be investigated and all that kind of stuff. And that's something that has to be looked into. But I mean, again, like the politics of the Middle East is very the West would militarily engage in the Middle East, obviously oil being one of them. But sometimes I think that, you know, with the Iraq war, with the fact that the Americans are in Afghanistan, obviously with their engagement in Syria and all that kind of stuff, it's starting to show the limit American military. One of the reasons why, you know, at the beginning, Trump might be like, you know, very, you know, you might make a position towards war. Yeah. And then he has to pull back a little bit because maybe it's, you know, this is showing the limits to actually what the US can actually achieve. Let's not forget they've got bases in almost like over 800 countries, including the United Kingdom as well. In Menwith Hill, there's a base here, a US military base. And again, what on earth is doing here? There's US personnel here as well. So, you know, it shows that they are very much stretched in terms of militarily what they can do. But it also shows that within the American context, within the American establishment, there is a underlying thinking about this threat that Iran poses. And what's interesting is that in national security establishment on that, obviously you try to divert it, but again, the people within the national security industry who have this idea that Iran is a threat, we need to tear down this this nuclear deal and stuff like that. We need to be more administration, and it's actually kind of obviously in 2000, and that happened back then, right? And Iran is that the kind of messaging has changed. Do you understand?
Yeah.
A lot of us think, that, because we had the massive protests against the Iraq war, you can have something similar now, and I hope we do. But the problem is that from then until now, the elite time in trying to come up with projects and organizations that will influence people's perceptions. Do you understand? Aggressive stance against Iran, as they probably might have been in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Do you understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
There's a lot of angles where this can which can influence how we react to this. Now the thing is that this is a very global issue, and again, it's like, for me, one of the steps that we could have done is to actually get Jeremy Corbyn into number 10, because of his anti-war stance, of his belief in human rights, international law. These are the steps that we need to take to ensure that the rule of law is kind of implemented on a global level. The fact that we didn't do that, the fact that we have someone who might know of the issues, who might be well versed in the issues, he might know of the stuff, but he's going to basically follow Trump's, rule, basically his plan,
right?
Because of the whole issue with Brexit, and also the fact that it seems like the Tories would want to have a good trade deal with Trump, and therefore there's a likelihood that we'll follow whatever the Americans basically say. So, and again, this brings it back to us, like the reason why I think we should be so interested in the Middle East is because obviously what our governments do in the Middle East, millions of people live there. It will affect millions of people.
Yeah.
But they're not doing all this stuff in the Middle East to bring about democracy, for regime change and all that kind of stuff. They're doing it for the interest of the corporations that will gain to profit from the valuable resources. That's always the bigger picture. And people like Qasem Soleimani, very powerful.
Yeah.
In opposition to the Western interests,
that
they have to be taken out. Whether they were good or bad, they have to be taken out, basically.
So, why do you think we should be worried here, or worried in general in the world? Because all this talk of World War III is taking place, and this is the we're on the cusp of World War III. Is going to be crazy now, and blah blah. Why do you think we should be very worried about what Trump is doing? Maybe they've told him to back off because you're not going to be voted in next time. Do you realize that?
Yeah.
Because of what you've just done.
Yeah.
Because most presidents that have gone to war have been very unpopular.
Yeah.
Especially when it's looking like you ain't going to be matching Iran's technology, because Iran is like, they're on the next level when it comes to army, manpower, weaponry.
Yeah. And
their manpower is very different compared to the US Army's manpower and ideology mindset. So, there'll be countless of lives lost on both sides.
Yeah.
Is it worth it? This geezer calls me at this time. Why? Okay, go on.
All right, why do you think? Obviously, it affects people. So if millions of people will be affected. Yeah. In the Middle East, our taxes are going to be used to fund these kind of adventures in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Now we're living at a time of austerity, man. Yeah, there's a lot of cuts. There's a lot of people who are being affected by the cuts.
Yeah.
And you know, that people rely on should be enough for at least a lot of us to actually, in our minds, start thinking to ourselves that, listen, this is going to be very negative. People's lives are going to be affected, whether the east or on the west, in different ways, and that should be enough. But also, it shows the level of our politics that we are in. If the first thing that comes to mind is really, when you have political differences, or when we want of the corporate estate,
yeah.
If the first thing is to actually build tension and war for that, what does that say about us? Or our leadership, to be honest with you? It says that literally our leaders in the West will act in our name for the interests of those who are basically oppressing us.
Okay.
Do you understand? Interest of those who are oppressing us all. So, and things like that. We have, whether in the East or the West, I'm not just going to be like, this is a problem with the West. There's a problem with the East. We have a problem of a lack of accountability, a lack of transparency, and a lack of holding governments and systems to account.
So why should we be worried though?
I think we should be worried because whether it's by people dying, literally, or people being physically affected by it, or people, or in the West, where we are already suffering cuts, literally, where we are already suffering a lack of public services, where there is not much public spending on anything. Do you understand? It's always is the actions of our government go to other countries and go and invade other countries. They do it in the name of spreading democracy. They're doing it in our name.
So here's my theory on things here.
Yeah.
Problems, Mike. Problems. Okay.
Do you have that?
Hold on. I think we've been muted all this time.
No way.
I don't know, man. Can you just check it out if we get
No, we haven't been muted all this time.
Just see if you got any volume, man. Yeah. Okay. So right. So let's get something straight here. Yeah.
Okay, no, we haven't been muted all this time, bro. Huh? We haven't.
Are you sure? Okay. All right. Fine. Yeah. So governments, if they, anywhere you are in the world, if they go into war or join this war that Trump is going to be charging and leading, let's face it, he will be doing your money that's spent elsewhere. Your people will suffer because this will be a very horrible war. Because we're not talking about World War II, where there was just biological warfare on both sides. Yeah. We're talking about atom bombs here that America had no problem in using on the people of Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just for the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Okay.
Yeah.
So, God forbid if something happened on that level where a rogue fringe Irani, militant militia group took matters in their own hands and, did whatever to the next part.
Okay.
So do join us part 2. Facebook and YouTube, stay here. We're live. You can hang around. So Anchor FM will join us in part 2 for my reasons behind what I've just said.
Let's do it.
Be with you soon. Right, welcome to part 2, the Freedom Vibe podcast, and I'm Adam, and this is Mizan right here.
Right.
So I do apologize about Tini. So what was I saying just now?
Basically, you were talking about again how this will affect people? And why?
You know, the people's money, the country's money will be gone to waste. We're not dealing with World War II. We're dealing with far more advanced technological weapons. Yeah, it's
Very precise as well.
yeah, man, and you know, it's gonna be. America had no problem in dropping a bomb on Nagasaki and Hiroshima because they thought these were born whatever, yeah. And the world turned a blind eye. Did they take America to war crime court? No. Okay, so for me, there's a weird scenario happening now. There seems to be a very big calm in the storm. All of a sudden, the rhetoric has died down immensely. You know,
but it's a type of calmness that I'm not like.
Yeah, I'm very uneasy with what's happening.
Yeah,
and I'm very uneasy about Boris Johnson in the UK, who can flip of the switch turn on and say, no, we're going to back our allies. They've had immense cuts. They're trying to recruit on TikTok now.
Okay, so
I saw an advert for the armed forces on TikTok.
Right.
What the hell? Now they, you know what? Let's look at this really real. Yeah. Who perhaps don't have places like Redcar, Hull, wherever. Who are all for Brexit. Are all for the United Kingdom. Defend your country. One guy turned around and said on TikTok in reply, you know what? No problem. I'm all for gender difference.
Okay.
In the 1940s, when the women were in the factories building weapons and men were at the war. So this guy saying, I'm all for gender equality. Let's fight the war, and us men will stay in the factories and do all the weapon building.
And let's not do any of that, to be honest with you.
Anyway, whatever, but I found that hilarious. Anyway, however feminists take it how you want, and it's a trivial joke. And
we're all for women's rights over here.
Yeah. Whoop, whoop. Anyway, so listen, you really need to hold your leaders to account. Be your member of parliament there. Because, man, if your member of parliament's going to vote for war,
and a lot of our MPs do,
and a lot of the MPs do when the whip comes along, and especially in the UK, you know, they have a party system where if you're not towing the party line, then that's it, bang, you're done. And this is with the other countries as well, for political and financial need, or, you know, the IMF will give out certain, said, well, you know, Saudi Arabia might, like they did with Pakistan. They didn't allow them to go to the Malaysia summit. And Imran Khan's like, look, man, what do you want me to do?
There's strings attached.
Yeah, basically. Man. Listen, there are a lot of countries out there and have got strings attached. So I think there needs to be
accountability.
Take place. Very worried on many levels.
And let's not forget, it's again, it's like this is just the rhetoric that we're seeing, but there has been actions taken in the past, again against Iran. So, for example, not many people like talk about the fact that during the deal was happening, you know, the nuclear agreements and stuff like that, Iran was the victim of severe hack attacks by the Americans. This had a detrimental effect, you know, within Iran when these hacks were going on, these attacks were going on. But you know, cyber war, basically, Iran was the victim of cyber war. But what was more serious, and again, it's like, you know, this is, you know, there are different players who want to see Iran no longer a big hegemon. Obviously, it's like one of them is the Israeli government, and one of the things that they were shooting off a lot of the Iranian scientists. So this is not the first kind of act of aggression against Iran, but this is a very serious one. And again, it's like, you know, it just shows that yes, there are issues, there are problems, but our politics, and one of the ways that we could have done that obviously is to elect someone else within number 10, but that didn't happen. But we have to hold them to account. The way things are going negatively affects people in different ways, and it's something that should be of worry to us because of how it's going to affect us. You know, me and Adam, we were just speaking about like how austerity and how, you know, war in the Middle East will affect people from retaliating against us. The actual retaliation that we might face from a Middle Eastern country, you know, that's going to be something that affects us all as well. So again, we need to ensure that we are toning down the vocabulary of war, the need or the want to go to war, because it has negative reverberations for everyone. And again, going back into the context of Iran, Iran's had a lot of Iran's done a lot of things as well, but within the country, like within Iran itself, Western governments have aggressively attacked Iran, whether through cyber, and the best way to actually deal with it is, for me, is like through diplomacy, really. But again, we need to hold our governments to account, because any retaliation, if this goes to war, any retaliation will be against us, and we will all be affected by this.
Can I bounce right in? And just say
yes, but first of all, I just want to say welcome, my man Gohar.
Yo, what's up, man? This is just a real podcast with, you know what I mean, people. It's all live, man. Man, just bowling. You know what I'm saying?
Bowling completely.
It's all love. It's a family vibe here. But I just want to say the thing you're talking about Iran, because if you think of ever since President Trump came in,
yeah,
the pressure straight away from withdrawing from that the deal that they had,
yeah,
and ever since then, it's been like then sanctions,
yeah,
trade, whatever.
They just put sanctions recently as well now, right?
Oh, again.
Yeah, like since the bombing of the two things, now they said they're going to restrict metal and oil production coming out of the country. Now check this, yeah. I know I've got my back face towards the camera.
No, you see it.
Now check this, yeah. So China is due to come within the week to America for trade talks. Yeah.
Interesting.
And Iran is the exporter of steel and oil to China. They've restricted steel and oil to China.
Right.
So then China is going to come to America, and America said, we can give you steel and oil.
Right. Okay.
Right.
But Pompeo denied it. He said, no, what are you talking about? They don't get their stuff from China but we are going to talk to them. We're going to have fruitful talks with China.
Who's saying that? US?
The US.
Pompeo.
So you can understand what's happening here.
Yeah. There's a kind of geopolitical restructuring going on over here where...
So what it is, they've obviously threatened Iran and said, listen, we're going to lift all the sanctions. You can do what you like. I think there's a bit of threatening, and Iran's like, listen, we don't want to go into war. We don't need a war here. But I don't think Iran's stupid, yeah? Because their people, I don't... if the people are suffering from, there is dissent in Iran, yeah, and these are the the people who like the Shah, yeah,
but also human rights, the human.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, yeah, there's a lot that's happened in Iran that people can question, yeah. I get that. Question is that the amount of support that's out there, again, we say this with Gaddafi as well. Only 2% of the population were against Gaddafi.
Right.
What Gaddafi made his country into in terms of resources and everything. It's the same with Saddam. Saddam did the same thing with Iraq.
Yeah.
Iraq was a very beautiful country, very beautifully made, but there was a lot of dissent there because of the way he was, he squashed a lot of dissent. Now, without that power being there, look what's happened to the countries.
Yeah.
It's like crazy anarchy.
Yeah.
So you just think to yourself, hold on. And from the words of an old client of mine, who's a communist Jewish guy, he says he's a communist,
Right.
which is what Bashar al-Assad is, which is what Saddam was, but not Gaddafi.
Right. Yeah.
Because they were part of the Ba'athist party.
Yeah.
And this Jewish guy, he said, look, I'm a communist. He goes, don't get me wrong, my family have lived for generations in Syria and Iraq. He said, I'm Iraqi, I was born in Iraq. He's a fairly old guy in his late 60s. And he said, you know what? Don't get me wrong, there were tyrants. Gaddafi, this was before the Syria war happened. Gaddafi and Saddam, And he said, you know what, but the biggest mistake that ever was made was to take these two people out. Because it destabilized everything.
Yeah.
And destabilization allows for other countries to come in and take what they want.
Yeah.
That's what it is. In fact, I was speaking to my hairdresser, and he made two.
That's a fly hairstyle you got, bro.
Yeah, he busted it. He's Italian origin, and you've been cutting my hair for ages, so we always speak about deep things. A couple of things he said, it just reminded me of what Adam was saying, and he was saying that first of all, you're talking about these guys, Gaddafi and these guys. He was of the opinion, and he's a very well-read guy, the older guy, 60s, 70s, 60s, I think he's his age at the moment. But he was saying that he personally thinks that in certain countries like the Middle East region, benevolent dictatorship works better than a democracy. It's his personal opinion. But these kind of people who are coming in, you know what I'm saying, like Gaddafi, Saddam and stuff like that, they really work in more in a dictatorship. But if you have they are dictators. But if you have benevolent dictators who are good to the people and provide money for like all the infrastructure and stuff like that, he's personally going, that's a better system. He personally thinks in the Middle East, and that's the things that you're touching upon.
Yeah.
And the second thing he talked about Iran today, and he was saying that listen, there's another element he personally thinks people are missing, is that all these sanctions and stuff like that, they were really done because they affect the price of the markets. The Dow Jones and all of that. And he's saying that listen, the people like Trump's making people money because they kind of have a bit of foreknowledge that these sanctions are going to come in and how it's going to affect the market.
Well, it's interesting to say that because I was looking at a news article the other day, and the news article said, the news item talked about, oh look, there's an Iran war taking place, a potential one.
Yeah.
U.S. defense stocks have shot up.
They will shoot up.
They've shot up.
That's it.
People have made serious money on U.S. defense stocks.
Yeah.
And that's what he's saying. He goes, that's the main motivator.
And the construction companies that were involved previously in the Middle East conflict, their stocks are shot up.
Yeah, for real.
Because
they're
people
going to
know,
make money.
Like Halliburton and Kellogg and
Kellogg Brown.
Because one of the biggest industries in the world is the arms industry. There's a lot of money there.
So
you know what I'm saying?
So for me, why we should be worried about what's happening in the Middle East, is clear. We've got no money to fight wars. When a war will take place, there's going to be serious damage and casualties and collateral that's going to happen. And it's not going to be a very pretty thing. It will destabilize economies, and whoever. This is my opinion. We're not in World War II anymore. We're not fighting with toy guns and cap guns. We have technological weapons, biological and nuclear warfare,
cyber warfare as well.
Cyber warfare on many, many levels. People are coming to your country and take you out. Before that never happened. Before America would atom bomb Nagasaki and Hiroshima and no one would try them. That can't happen now, but that doesn't stop them from doing that.
Discrete methods of that happening.
There's discrete methods of doing that and taking out people and whatever it is.
Yeah.
So for me, we should be very, very worried about what's happening.
Yeah.
And living in the UK,
Mm.
we need to really, really you need to make sure your MPs don't vote for this stuff, because my feeling is that I personally think that the UK will vote to go into war.
Mm.
Well,
Because we're dealing with a neocon.
Yeah.
me and Miz got a little game going on. And we do our in sync. So we hit the ones beautifully today. That's a choir level quality.
Well, it might be louder when we hear on the mic.
Yeah, so
Try to do another one before the end.
Mm.
We gotta have all three of us one time.
Mm.
But it's gonna be natural, you know.
Yeah, so I think that there's a lot of reverb happening here, man, with these tinny things. I'll go get rid of them. Not rid of them, but put the random comments. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know what, as well though, because the point you're making is a very good point, that there's a potential thing to be worried here already. I mean, whatever's going to happen, whatever war, whatever, it hasn't broken out yet. But already on these tensions, a civilian aircraft has been shot down.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Look how many casualties, and this is just the beginning of the tension.
But Iran admitted to it today.
Of course they admitted to, yeah, they admitted.
But I'm thinking to myself, but you emphatically denied it before.
Yeah.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they said scientifically it's impossible.
Right.
What are you
Okay.
talking about? This is your propaganda.
All right.
And today I'm like, it was us.
Now they're admitting it.
Yeah, and it's a shameful thing for us, and this is caused by the US's stupid action.
Yeah.
Because we thought, our people thought this was a plane flying over to bomb us.
Yeah.
Another drone.
Mm.
Yeah. And then all the other governments it's unintentional. Now the the Canadian citizens or the British citizens, apparently
It was more Canadians, I believe.
Yeah, but they weren't white.
Oh, they weren't. Okay.
From what I saw there,
Okay.
the Britons weren't anyway.
Yeah. They were like Middle Eastern and.
Yeah. Maybe that would have caused a little bit of a concern if they were.
But this is the thing. Like, we're not even on that proper levels, and already we've had civilian casualties because of the tensions. And I'm just like,
176 people died.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But Iran is saying it's because of US's stupid action.
Yeah,
this is like a cause and effect.
Yeah, they're saying because of the tensions and what they did, they were on alert and they made an error. But
it's surprising, the rhetoric. Like, look, it's unintentional. It's cool.
Yeah, but they have to be.
This is the perfect opportunity to say you killed civilians and this was intentional. They could make a propaganda war against them.
The US.
The US.
I still think they will.
But no, everyone said it's unintentional. It's all come out. Look, it's unintentional.
Well, even US said.
Yeah, man.
Okay, fair enough.
It's unintentional.
I know
we
Iran
believe it's unintentional.
Okay.
And we believe in an Iranian missile hit it. There's a weird video going around.
Yeah.
Of this Narimi Gharibi or something. I saw his name on the side.
Narimi.
What's that? Narimi.
That was his name on the side of the thing,
Okay,
man.
okay.
It sounds like some kind of elf in it.
Yeah.
The Arimi.
Yeah.
He just
But obviously that's a
he
serious
videoed this. It was just light in the sky, and it hit this light. It looked like a comet, and it wasn't even clear. And then the bomb exploded. Then the next picture was the bomb site. The site where all the plane was scattered everywhere. And I don't know, man. But all I'm saying is we should be very worried on many on an economical level, on a tension level in countries.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of Irani friends who are pro the government and anti the government, and they get along fine. Yeah? There's no hate between them. It's just there are a lot of human rights atrocities that are happening in Iran.
Yeah.
Right.
By very hardline religious people.
Yeah.
Against the ex-Shah community.
Yeah.
But
that would require, I believe that, look, yes, these governments are, they are allowed to be where they are via the oppression of their own people. You understand? That's what the idea, for me, I know some people see this idea of a benevolent dictator, something as an oxymoron, because dictatorship really is a structure that oppresses other people to ensure that that person or that authority stays in power.
I can see why some people.
Yeah, some people are just like there's no such thing as benevolent dictatorship. But anyways, what I was going.
You do get benevolent, like more kinder dictators.
Yeah, you do. I'm not disagreeing with that. Yeah. But what I'm trying to say is that like there are alternatives to war. Some people are calling, Western governments to go to war with Iran because they generally believe that the regime change would be a good thing.
Right.
But there is an alternative, which is to actually strengthen the United Nations human rights framework and structure and work with indigenous human rights groups within those countries to bring about an organic resistance to dictatorships. Do you understand? Now, whether or not people listening really believe in human rights or whatever, that's not the issue. The issue is that's a better framework than going to war, because going to war would immediately mean the death of civilians, women, and children. This isn't like two armies meet in a battlefield. This is literally planes bombing people's houses. And just on that alone, that's one of the things that's one of the reasons why we should also oppose it. But let's also look at it from another angle. The reasons why some of these countries, like America and the West mainly, why they go to war in Middle Eastern countries is for the interests of corporate organizations.
Well, this is what they're talking about. The
markets and stuff like that. They want to import certain policies in the Middle East, and they can only do it via military means. But the result,
the monies.
Yeah, but here's the thing. The thing that they want to import in the Middle East, they've also imported it here in the West. Now you have things like privatization, you have things like austerity. Now the organizations, I'm talking about the global organizations that profit from that, are the same ones that will be profiting from war, basically. And we are basically interconnected via that means as well. And this is another reason why I believe that we should be interested in what those organizations do in the Middle East, because they are doing similar things to us as well. And this is the other thing, you talk about dictatorships in the Middle East. A lot of activists, a lot of scholars say that we have corporate fascism in the West. And again, this is because of a lack of transparency, a lack of accountability.
Explain what corporate fascism is.
It's literally, for me, the way I understand it is, again, the erosion of democracy for the interests of the corporate state. And this is something that, that was inadvertently a major issue in this election that happened in December, 12th of December, when Corbyn, it was literally someone who was seen as someone who opposes privatization, who opposes the interests of the corporate elite. And this is one of the reasons why he was targeted. Corporate fascism is literally, for me, it means many things, but for me, it means the erosion of democracy, number one, and the imposition of a rulership that is not accountable and that literally is there just for profit to the disadvantage of everyone else.
Corporate fascism.
Yeah, that's for me. There's other definitions as well. But what this means is the erosion of democracy, and this is what privatization is. And that's the thing. And it's been implemented in different parts of the world in different ways. Over here, it's done via austerity. The public cuts. The cutting of public services, which means that private companies can come in and take over the services. In Latin America, that was done in Chile with Pinochet. You understand? That's the way they implemented their plan over there. It was done in Iraq as well, where basically after the removal of Saddam Hussein, you have companies coming to take over to rebuild Iraq. For us, it's been done via privatization.
So, and just another thing here. So, in line with the sanctions that's taking place, with with the US sanctions,
Yeah.
right? Instagram and Facebook, in line with UN sanctions,
Yeah.
anyone or any post that's seen supporting Qasem Soleimani,
Yeah.
or the Iran itself,
Yeah.
is literally deleted.
Yeah. That's not a surprise.
So that's a form of censorship.
It is.
Freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think,
For anyone questioning or supporting, saying, "Oh, look, you know what's happening there."
Where was that deleted? In which country?
Facebook.
Facebook.
All
and
right,
Instagram.
all right. I see.
So
Yeah.
if you're seen to support this, then
Yeah.
I see what you mean.
or any post that support or question or allude to supporting it will be taken down.
Yeah.
Or have been taken down.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that obviously this is the first time I've heard about it with. This is the first time I've heard about it with Qasem Soleimani.
Yeah.
But political posts, I mean, the issue of Facebook censoring stuff, has been going on for a very long time.
Yeah.
So, for example, again, in another issue, like there's been a lot of Palestinian posts and Palestinian organizations who have had their Facebook closed down and Twitter closed down and all that kind of stuff, all at the request of Israel. So that kind of stuff happens. And I believe that's obviously because of the fact that, the people that run these organizations, these social media companies, obviously are in the same circle as the elite.
Okay.
So yeah.
Just to interrupt you, I just want to say goodbye to our Anchor FM viewers, listeners out there. We should be very worried about what's happening in the Middle East.
Yeah.
You should take it very seriously. Hold whoever elected representatives to account.
Yeah.
But on that note, we hope you found this informative.
Definitely.
Do join us on Facebook and on YouTube, and we'll speak to you soon. Good day, everything. Good day, good night.
Bang.
Yes, so carry on. Let's carry on this and let's wrap up in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, so again, Facebook, it's been happening for a very long time, the censorship that's been going on. And again, it's not just like, and other kind of issues as well. But also at the same time, the state is called racist, some of the most vicious stuff. And I'm talking about that are on the side of the elite, their posts stay on. Do you understand? So for example, when the whole thing with Rohingya was happening, the genocide and the ethnic cleansing that was happening with the Rohingyas, it was no secret that the generals, that the ruling elites were actually promoting their racist messages from Facebook, and those posts were up. Basically, the the politicians in Israel routinely, in different languages, refer to Palestinians as insects, as like literally animals. Literally, this dehumanization and this racism is allowed, literally. But you have progressive movements who want to challenge that, and their posts get 95% of their posts get deleted, basically. So there is this censorship going on. It's the first time I've heard about Iran, but I'm not surprised because this has been going on for a very long time.
Right, but amongst the obviously those are the posts of certain people, but amongst the just like the lay people, the people who are not like big players in it, but who discuss these things, because social media is a big platform for people just discussing ideas and having opinions, like people like you and me who are not like as known or hold certain positions. That I don't think that is necessarily taken away from the platform. I think people still have a rigorous debate about these things.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just organizations, for example.
But certain authorities.
Yeah, so it's like for example, you might be talking about something, and that's just you. But if you have the power to mobilize people, then literally
you're a problem.
Then you might have the issue of censorship.
Yeah.
So that's going on. Obviously, I'm not surprised that's going on with Iran. But also, and I'm not surprised because
Mark Zuckerberg right there, bro. What's he doing?
It was funny because he's seen as a leftist.
I've heard statements from him saying that, listen, we're when he's been under pressure to like, you know, do certain things and block certain people and stuff like that. But I remember reading somewhere that he was like, no, you're always going to have a platform, you know, on Facebook. We're not going to censor your voice.
Well,
and I was
that could
thinking
be for PR reasons as well.
Possibly, but
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, like I thought he was more of a kind of leftist in that respect. So I didn't expect that
No,
necessarily.
I'm seeing he's seen as a leftist.
Yeah, maybe in reality something else, but
Yeah.
I kind of thought of him as a leftist.
Yeah, but what's interesting is what Sacha Baron Cohen said. Again about Facebook posts and political messaging on Facebook.
Borat himself.
Well, I like Ali G.
Ali G. I like
Ali G was the best.
Borat the movie is man, it's difficult to watch. Man.
Oh yeah. Anyways, but he said that
difficult, man. Come on, that's like cringe.
Yeah. It's
yeah,
funny,
but you know the scene. You know the scene I'm talking about.
The hotel scene, man. Oh my days.
That's enough said there, man. That hotel scene is I can't.
But that scene reminds me of what's happening here. Because you got like Trump trying to attack this fat guy who's, you know, fairly okay, he's well built, and they just got into a little scuffle all of a sudden, and it's just like bare everything.
That's the next analogy.
Okay, that's a very next analogy. I mean, anyway, what I was trying to say is Sacha Baron Cohen said that, look, if Hitler was alive, basically Facebook would allow his posts, basically. And that's the point. Like, Facebook doesn't, it deletes other people, but then it doesn't fact check other people. It doesn't do any of that other kind of stuff with other politicians, stuff like that.
And not in defense of Mark Zuckerberg, but I guess he must be having certain pressure to do that.
Maybe.
Right?
I'm not
because they're like, yo, man, you got, you know what I mean? Who knows what's going on in the background? There must be certain lobbyists and political pressure or some people contacting him.
Or even just directly on Facebook. So therefore, it's like we're being influenced as well. And all these are a reason of why we should care about what's going on in the world. We need to do our own kind of work and find out what's going on in the world, because you have these organizations that are trying to influence our opinion and perception anyway, for the further the interests of a corporate elite who are in charge of a corporate estate that is literally affecting us, whether via privatization or other means. So we're interconnected, and because of that, and also because of the other reasons as well, people dying, and you know, this is affecting everyone. Your lives are being affected. This is why we should be really interested about what's going on.
Yeah, but one of the big points that I hope people take away, and you touched upon it just now, is do your own research, man.
Yeah.
Like, don't take everything you just, you know what I mean, hear everything and just think, yeah, that's exactly what's happening. Take all of that, but have you got your own mind? Like, you know what I mean? You need to do these things. We all need to. I need to do it. He needs to do it. He needs to do it. You need to do it.
Yeah.
We need to get our own research. If there's things that don't make sense, this is one of the big things that sometimes, like, I think in our society as well, you know, with the recent elections we had, that we just believe anything that on face value that we've just been given news-wise. So we all need to do it. It's a responsibility on all of us, you know what I'm saying? So don't just take things and just think that's it. Do your own research, question it. You got a mind, man. Use that joint.
Well, I'm going to refer to
the mad quotes.
I
also know it's quotes.
Speeches that any government done. Obviously, I'm not going to say it word for word, but what he implied in his speech was that we have a military-industrial complex that is really unaccountable, and only an enlightened citizenry is the only one that can stop that military-industrial complex. And enlightened citizenship. People. So basically, people who are aware about what's going on.
Yeah.
They're the only ones that can mobilize and really oppose this stuff. And therefore, that's why it's very important for us to be worried, but turn that worry into a form of awareness, where you go find out the information about what's going on in the world, and then get active about it.
Use that worry, channel that worry into energy that can potentially, you know what I mean, be
change
useful,
the world.
And stuff like that.
Yeah, so on that note, let's get back to this here. Sorry about this random turning around of things, and I'm trying to I've got a lot of reverb happening in this room. Anyway, so okay, so on that note, we're going to wrap up, and these are my final thoughts now, is that you should be generally very worried about what's happening in the Middle East. It's an emotive situation that can go either way, and it's one where you have to hold your representatives to account. They got to know that, look, man, they've got no support in terms of voting for a war, because we've been through this all before, twice over. Yeah, with Syria, with the bombing of Syria, and with the red flags happen, conspiracy theories take place, and whatnot. And excuses are made to go into war with intelligence that no one presents. Which I find really insulting. These are people that are voted in, and they won't anyway. So look, there is no money for war. Yeah, there are issues in countries, especially the UK, where we need money for the economy, we need money for frontline services, and so on. So look, keep an eye on what's happening. Don't believe everything that you hear on the news. Yeah, not everyone the news makes out to be a demon or whatever it is. Or
found out with Jeremy Corbyn. Oh my God!
Yeah, I mean, look, and I think you just need to do your own research. Don't take things at face value. Understand what is happening. Hold your representatives to account, and we need to take this seriously. Because this is not World War II, where we're fighting with little paper pepet guns and whatnot. This is the modern age of technological warfare, cyber warfare. Things will get hacked, broken into, cluster bombs, biological, you name it. Okay. So this is a very serious thing. We do not need reckless leaders doing silly things. Okay, for the sake of corporate endeavor and for the sake of money and capitalism. Okay, period. So we hope you found today's session informative, and we will join you next week. Sorry for any technical hitches or any just whatever's happening in the background. And thank you for Gohar for joining us. And sorry, I'm covering your face with my big head.
No, that's cool.
Wearing the same jacket.
Yeah,
Man.
Yeah.
Every week there's gonna be on as long as it's cold.
Wow, go on. So thank you for joining, and I just want to say goodbye to my two little boys, Rayan and Charlie. They're going to sleep now. Very late, I must say. God, boy, but they've been out today. So okay,
Did you just say Charlie?
Yeah.
Is that what you call him?
Your nickname, Charlie.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Charlie.
Mo Salah, man. Mo Saleh. Yeah. So just say good night, and I hope you can join us next week.
Yeah.
For an informative, fun-filled chat. And you have a nice remainder of the weekend. Good night. Good evening, good day, and good night. Ciao.
Out.